for this, you're going to need a calculator. It says, find the distance between each pair of points, round your answer to the nearest tenth if necessary. Sometimes you're going to get a perfect whole number. Sometimes you're going to get a decimal. Most of the times you will get a decimal. First thing I want you to do is we're going to scribble out some of these because there's kind of a lot. So we're going to skip number. So just cross out number 5 and 6. And then also 9 and 10. So 5, 6, 9, and 10, you can cross out. You don't have to do those ones. You can skip those ones. So we're going to do a couple together, and then I'm going to let you go because once you catch on, it'll be okay. The hard part is even yesterday. Did I forget you? You're staring at me. Sorry. The hard part is writing your coordinate points correctly. Even when I did this yesterday with geometry honors, they were having trouble writing out the initial coordinate point. Some of them, so you need to be careful with your initial coordinate point. So I also put a graph up here. Remember, you start at 0, 0. You go side to side first. You go to the right, it's positive. If you go up, it's positive. If you go to the right and down, it's positive, negative. If you go to the left, that's negative. Up is positive, left and down is negative, negative. So you need to be careful with your first initial coordinate points. So for number 1, I have to write out the coordinate points first. So if I'm looking at this coordinate point up here, if I start at 0, 0, and I'm going to the left, and then I'm going up, what is that coordinate point if I'm going to the left 5, and then I'm going up 5? Negative 5, positive 5. And then I'm going to call that x1 and y1 because it's my first coordinate point. So I started at 0, 0. I went to the left, so it's negative. I went up, so it's positive. I got to write the other coordinate point as well. If I started 0, 0, I'm going to the right, and then I'm going down. So what would that second coordinate point be? 1, negative 2. Because I went down, that second number should be negative. I went to the right one, and then I went down 2. So it's 1, negative 2. So I'm going to call this x2, y2, because it's just the second coordinate point that I chose. Now I'm going to find the distance using my distance formula, which is the square root of the difference between the x's squared plus the difference between the y's squared. So it looks like a lot. We're just going to plug it in. Remember, you don't have to remember the formula. You just need to know how to use it. In parentheses, I'm taking x2 and I'm subtracting x1. So I'm taking x2, which is 1. I'm minusing x1, which is negative 5. So I have 1. I'm subtracting negative 5. People write it like this. They're like, it's 1 minus 5. That's not correct because it's 1 minus negative 5. So if you're subtracting a negative, what are you actually doing? Does anybody know? Adding them. So it turns into a plus sign. That 5 is not negative. People also want to put plus negative 5. That 5 becomes positive because it's becoming positive to make the plus sign. I have a power of 2. See my little 2? So I'm going to put 2. Put a plus sign. And then I'm doing the same thing with my y's. I'm taking y2 and I'm subtracting y1. So what 2 numbers am I subtracting? Negative 2, and I'm subtracting 5. So negative 2 minus 5. That does not become a plus sign because it's just minus 5. The 5 is positive. So now I'm going to simplify PEMDAS forever, for always. Please use my theory, Aunt Sally. So I'm going to do my parentheses. So if I have my square roots, what is 1 plus 6? Oh, 1 plus 6. 1 plus 5 is 6, my bad. So 6 and then squared. Sorry. I was ahead of myself. Negative 2 minus 5. What is that going to bring down? Negative 7. So this 7 is negative. I'm going to put it in parentheses. People want to bring down like a minus sign instead. It's plus negative 7 because you have to do your exponents first. So it does not become a minus sign. It's always a plus sign. I have to do my exponents before I add them together because PEMDAS forever. Always and forever. So what is 6 to the power of 2? It is not 12. 36, because 6 to the power of 2 is 6 multiplied by 6. So 36. I'm always bringing down a plus sign. And then I'm doing negative 7 squared, which is negative 7 multiplied by -7. Positive 49. It'll always bring down a positive because whether you're doing a negative times a negative or a positive times a positive, it will always be a positive that you're bringing down. So I'm bringing down positive 49. PEMDAS forever. Now I'm going to add them. So what's 36 plus 49? 85, you said? And now this is why you need your calculator, because you're not doing this in your brain. You're going to take your calculator and you are going to get crazy decimals. You're going to press 85, and then you have to square root. So just like last year in Algebra 1, when you did quadratics and you had the quadratic formula and it was Hot Mess Express, you need to shift and then square root. So you're going to shift it and then you're going to press the X squared button because the square root is actually above the button. So that's why you have to press shift and then square root. You're going to get a decimal. We're going to round to the nearest tenth, which is 1 decimal place. So this is 9.21. So it's going to stay as 9.2. Since it's an estimation, I'm going to put little squiggly lines instead of an equal sign because it's an estimation. If you want to put an equal sign, I don't care. It doesn't matter. But your square root symbol goes away. Your answer is around 9.2 because I rounded. It's not a perfect answer. Not too bad. So let's find our quarter points for number 2. And then we're going to plug it into our formula. So if I look at my first coordinate point over here, and it doesn't matter if you use this one or this one as the first point, but I'm just start from the left and go to the right. So from here, what would this coordinate point if I start at 0, 0 be? -5, 1, because I'm going to the left and then I'm going up 1. The second coordinate point is actually on the x-axis. So if I start at 0, 0, what is this coordinate point right here? 4 and 0. I went over 4. I did not go up anything. So try to substitute your values into your formula. You're going to need a big square root symbol. In parentheses, you're subtracting the x's. Yeah, if you, I try every single step, but if you can condense steps, I'm totally cool with that. Fine. Save steps where you can. You're doing, it should be x2 minus x1. So it's 4 minus 5, which is 4 plus 5. Okay, so let's switch it 4 and 5. And then this is going to have 4, you have 0, you're minus and 1, so we put some minus, like, but I just want to say. Because you're subtracting a negative, it turned into a plus sign. So if you want to check your first step to make sure it's plugged in correctly, you should have 4. You're minusing -5, so it's really plus 5. Because you're subtracting the negative, it's making that plus sign. And then for the y's, I'm doing 0 and I'm minusing 1. So check to see if the first step is correct, and then now try condensing. Simplify your parentheses. So it's 2 minus 1. Yeah. So it's the further than the second minus 1. So this is just 9.1. And so which is fine if it's like that. Just be okay. So yes. Figure out this. So that's okay. Fine, all of them together. What's 81 plus 1? Yeah, and then you can press 3. 82 should start. We got your answer. That's why you plug this over to 5 minutes. What about the urn? Because negative 1 squared is negative 1 times that. So if I start simplifying, 4 plus 5 is 9. So I have 9 to the power 2. I'll bring down my plus sign because it's always a plus sign. And then I have 0 minus 1, which is negative 1, and it's Akko Taco, but it is what it is. Now I'm going to square them. I'm not multiplying by 2. I'm multiplying it by itself. So 9 times 9 is 81. Negative 1 multiplied by negative 1 is a positive number. What's negative 1 times negative 1? On 0. 1. So negative 1 times negative 1 is just positive 1. So I'm going to add 1. So I'm really bringing down the square root of 82. And then this is where I don't want you to hurt your brains. You are using a calculator. For all of this, you're using a calculator, you can. So you're doing 82. And then you're shifting and square rooting. Shift, square root. So this is 9.05. We're rounding to the first decimal place. So this is going to be 9.1. How do we go? Try good number 3. Try number 3. Quarter points. So starting at 0, 0, you have to range quarter points. So from 0, 0, how much do I have to go to the left and up to get to this tip? Good. So the quarter point is negative 4. And so go side and side bird even. And then you also even doing. She told me to see her. Side bird. Well, your quarter points right here. So there's first side side keeping. So the first out, so it's 0 side. She rounded it and then she back. And then. Okay. Yeah, people always get that confused. Because when they start rounding slowly, it's like confusing about one point. Those are good. Keep going. You're doing fine. That's a little bit of effort to get the problem on, but guys, you know what, like for my soul, when I was creating the test, it was multiple choice and you didn't choose one. It was just left blank. It's like it's multiple choice. Do something. So when you're writing a part of fight, remember you go side to side first. For 0, 0. Then you go up or down. Side to side. Then up or down. So if you're working on number 3, your coordinate point is if I go from here, and it doesn't matter which one's first. I don't care which one's first. It literally does not matter. But if I'm talking about this one, From 0, 0, I'm going over to the left 2, and I'm going up 4. So -2, 4 can be the first point. My second coordinate point, I'm starting at 0, 0. I'm not going side to side anything. I'm just going up 3. So that second coordinate point should be 0, 3. And then you can label it, plug it into your formula. And once you get the hang of it, if you want to condense steps, like show less work into like 2 steps in 1 step, then that's fine. Show every single step. You get that. That's perfect. Because it's perfectly vertical. We lose a part of it, but we all of these are nice. They bust never put off, but it's for the good of using not really was to correct. And then these ones are easy because they give you the 4 points and go. It's like what X on my someone else, let me get back. So for number 3, you should have 0 and you're minusing -2. So if you're subtracting a negative, it's really adding 2. And then you're doing your y's. You're doing y2 minus y1. So you're doing 3 minus 4. If I combine these, 0 plus 2 is 2. Three minus 4 is -1. And then I'm simplifying. 2 to the power of 2 is 2 times 2. Okay. You have a tardy pass. Dang. So 2 to the power of 2 is 4. I moved the desk around for testing it today, so it's silver. -1 squared is -1 times -1, which is +1. So I'm adding 1. If I add 4 and 1, 4 plus 1 is 5. If I take the square root of 5, you get 2.23. So that's just going to be 2.2. Did we get that for people who tried? Number 3 is 2.2. This is the answer. So not a question. That's why sounds like a lot of time. So number 4, if you look, it's actually kind of like you could use the distance formula to calculate the distance on this one. Can anybody tell me the distance without having to use the formula? What is it? It's 6. How do you know that without using the formula? Because your eyes. Okay, so if you look at 1, 2, and 3, they're all diagonal lines. So you're going to get decimals if they're diagonals. This is a completely vertical line. So you could literally just count the distance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this answer is just 6. If you use the formula, which there's somebody that's already working ahead on different problems, they used the formula and they had me check their answer and they got 6 because you could get 6 if you use the formula, but you don't need to because it's a perfectly vertical line. if you have a perfectly vertical or perfectly horizontal line, you can just count the distance in total. But if it's a diagonal, you have to use the formula because you'll get a decimal. Okay. So jump to number 7. They already give you the coordinate point. So just label it x1, y1, x2, y2. And then it's actually easier because you don't have to see the coordinate out of the picture. There's a little bit less space, but that's why we skipped 9 and 10. Hopefully give you a little bit more space. You could use paper or the back or whatever. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Ooh. I'll zoom out and then you can look paper for a bit if you want. Or like copy it. Either way. A picture might be easier though. There you go.